G'day viewer, welcome back to the channel. Just a bit of an update on the reconditioning of some of the suspension components here. What we've got over the last week, I took the lower control arm to a mate's workshop and we pressed out the anchor pin, the pivot pin here for the lower control arm, pressed in a new bush, reassembled it, and it's all looking pretty good. Most of you Valiant guys in Australia will recognise these as CM lower control arms. They've got the sway bar mount here, both sides, yep, down there somewhere. The other thing you'll notice is that when Chrysler were doing their RTS suspension upgrades, they did lots of things. They what did they do? They fitted I think they went to the 1.99 or 97 sway bars. So all the cars got the heavy sway bars. Might be wrong, but I think that's what they did. They also went to larger caster rod bushes, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, because for CMs they're getting a bit tricky to overhaul. But and the front sway bar, that was fitted across the range for the RTS suspension, radial tune suspension. The other thing they did, they just had ongoing improvements. Like you US guys will recognise that, especially in the Rust Belt, this part of lower control arm, you can get rusty in between there, and they have a tendency of spreading out. And a similar thing happened in Australia. So and this is done at the factory, they fitted little bits of plate like this, and I think it started with the CL LeBarons in 76 or 77. Just put a bit of plate across there to hold the lower control arms together, the pressings. But this one, they did the driver side and forgot the passenger side. And again, this was the early 80s. The workforce knew that they were going to stop building the CM Valiant for too much longer, because they were selling, hundreds of Sigmas. The Sigma was the small car with the big 4-cylinder engine, and the fuel crisis, there was some lingering headaches over large cars and fuel consumption. So the Sigma was a small car with a sort of a roomy interior, not a bad bit of kit. So they probably were building Valiants out of leftover stock and whatever was left on the shelf. So these sort of things happen. You got the right one and the wrong one. These things happen. That's what they were doing. The other little problem I've got is these caster rod bushes. They don't make them for the CMs anymore. They make them for VH2 VK, possibly CL. Yeah, I think they do them for CLs. But the CM went to a bigger bush, and here it is here. This bush goes there. Then you've got the cross member, or the K-frame they call it. You've got the K-frame. And then you've got your other supporting bush, which goes through the K-frame. Then a big flat washer and a nut and a split pin. Now, the only ones they make now are for the early models or a Falcon replacement, but they're not the same. I'll show you what I mean. This is the forward part, and it's difficult to tell on camera, but they're pretty similar. I'll just do this. They're pretty similar, but they're not the same. You can see the change in shape there. And for the front bush, same again. They're pretty similar, but they're not the same. Let's have a crack at this properly. Oh no, that will have to do. It's very difficult. There we go. So yeah, different shape, just different. Just not quite good part, great parts, but they're just not the right shape. And from the local Valiant suppliers, they make an aftermarket sort of very hard plasticky type one, which looks like this. And I've had some experience with these in the past, and not with this exact brand, but they're very hard plastic, like the Nolithane type stuff. They have a habit of breaking, chipping, and sort of crumbling and disappearing. So although I've got these, I'm probably not going to use them. I'm probably going to go back and just refit the original ones, which are intact. That's about all I can say. They're intact, but they're worn out. They're 40 years old. Can we see a part number? Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you can find me a set of these, put a comment down below and I'll happily do a deal with you. So there we are. That's the lower control arm update and caster rod update. So what we'll do next, I've got to gain myself a little bit of time. Like most of us in sheds, most of us blokes in sheds, you know, I've got a wife and a couple of kids and zero time. So these videos happen sporadically, but I'm doing the best with what I've got. Anyway, take it easy guys, and I'll see you here. Cheers.